Okay, so up to this point, we've learned a little bit about how to use JavaScript to create dynamic front-end applications for the web. This lesson is actually going to pivot a little bit and explore how we can use JavaScript to build back-end APIs using a modern framework built on Node and Express. And so we're going to touch briefly on what Node is, how it's a JavaScript runtime, and how Express is a framework built on top of Node that makes it easy to build back-end APIs. But to understand all of this kind of in the context of JavaScript, we need first to understand what exactly runs JavaScript code. And for the longest time, the only place we could run JavaScript code was in the browser. And the reason why is that browsers, at least all modern browsers, shipped with some kind of JavaScript runtime environment. To execute JavaScript, you need a runtime environment that can take our JavaScript code and turn it into something the machine understands. And so Chrome has this V8 engine, they call it. I think Firefox is called SpiderMonkey or something. And what these engines allow us to do is come into the terminal and do things like const donuts equals glazed, sugar, chocolate sprinkles, and create a donuts array. And it works. And I can push a new donut onto there. Let's go with plain. Some people like plain donuts. And I can look at that donuts array and everything seems to be working. Now, the reason that works is because Chrome comes with this V8 engine that can take our JavaScript and process it, and it works as we expect it to. Now, once we leave the browser, that's no longer the case. We no longer have anything that can run our JavaScript, or at least that was the case until 2009, when a developer by the name of Ryan Dahl created Node.js, which acts as a runtime outside of the browser. And it's actually built on Google Chrome's V8 engine. And what was really cool about that is now we can use Node to run JavaScript almost anywhere. On mobile devices, our phones, IoT, in drones, everywhere. But what we're going to be focusing on is how we can use Node to write code for servers. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the client-server model, or even if you just need a quick refresher, essentially server is just a computer that lives somewhere else. And clients are things like our phone, or our tablet, or computer that communicate with these servers via HTTP requests. And so we're going to be writing the code for server-side technologies. And this is usually good when you have an API that is listening for requests from a client. Now, to do that, we're going to leverage a few other things that have come from the Node ecosystem. The main one that we're going to be working with is Express.js, which is a package or a bundled module of code that someone else has written that we can install onto our machine using the Node package manager. Since Node is just mostly a runtime with some other I/O type stuff, Express offers a framework on top of Node that allows us to do all kinds of cool things. So let's take a look at what we can do with Node really quickly, and then we'll start building ourselves our first application. So if I go into VS Code, I can create a new file here. I can say touch, let's do the same thing, donuts.js. And then I can head into my donuts file, and I can say const donuts equals glazed, sugar, chocolate sprinkles. And then I can say donuts.push. Let's push a jelly donut this time. And then let's console.log those donuts. Now, if I want to execute any kind of JavaScript outside of the browser, all I need to do is say node donuts.js. And since I have Node installed on my machine already, when I do this, it'll take this JavaScript code and it'll run it. And we can see the output here. Now, this isn't possible unless we already had Node installed on our system. So this is one of the really cool benefits of Node. Now, with all that out of the way, we're going to do a little code along here where we're going to build a server from scratch. And we're going to build a tiny little mini application, a little voting application. And so if you haven't had Node installed on your machine yet, you should go ahead and do that now by going to Node.js here, and you can find whichever one you want, but I recommend using the recommended for most users installation.